He thought it was just another delivery. Another door, another tip, another night trying to make ends meet. But when the woman smiled, leaned in, and whispered those words, something inside him froze. What started as a simple compliment carried a sting, a reminder of how people saw him, not for who he was, but for what they assumed he couldn't be. That night, her words set off a chain of events he never saw coming. Because sometimes prejudice hides behind a smile, and the cost of confronting it can change everything. If stories like this hit you, pause for a second, drop a like, and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt judged before someone even knew your story. Your voice matters here. Jack had been delivering pizzas for nearly 2 years. It wasn't his dream job, but it paid the bills while he studied late into the night, chasing a degree in architecture. Most customers barely looked at him, just handed over the cash and closed the door. He'd grown used to it. To them, he was invisible. Just another delivery guy with a tired smile that hid exhaustion. That evening felt no different. The air was heavy with summer heat, and his last order was in one of those neighborhoods where driveways curved like small roads and the houses looked like mansions. He had learned to keep it polite, professional, and quick. But when the door opened, something felt off. The woman who stood there didn't just glance, she stared as if studying him. Her voice was soft, almost too familiar, when she told him he was too handsome to be just a delivery guy. Jack laughed awkwardly, not sure how to respond. He didn't know that small moment. Her words, her tone, would start something far deeper than a simple delivery. Because that night, a $2 tip would uncover something far more expensive, the price of perception. Jack drove off that night thinking little of it. He'd brushed off strange customer encounters before, but something about her words wouldn't leave his mind. Too handsome to be just a delivery guy. It echoed like an insult disguised as praise, twisting in his thoughts as the city lights blurred past his windshield. The next day, his manager called him into the office. A complaint had come in from that same house. She'd claimed Jack had made her uncomfortable, that he'd lingered too long at her door. Jack's heart dropped. He knew exactly how it sounded. A black man accused of something that didn't happen. And in neighborhoods like hers, that kind of accusation could destroy a reputation in seconds. He tried to explain, but his manager avoided eye contact. "We just can't take chances," he said softly, sliding Jack's time card off the counter. Just like that, he was suspended. No investigation, no proof, just her word against his. The hours that followed were a blur. Anger, confusion, fear. He'd worked so hard to stay invisible, to avoid trouble, to do everything right. But now he realized that no matter how polite, how patient, or how hard-working he was, one person's perception could still define his reality. Later that evening, he drove back to that same neighborhood, not to confront her, but to understand why. Her porch light was on, and he could see silhouettes through the blinds, laughter, wine glasses, comfort. He stood at a distance, feeling the sting of something he couldn't name. It wasn't just about the job. It was about dignity. Then a patrol car slowed behind him. The officer rolled down the window, hand resting on his holster. "Everything okay here?" The question wasn't concern, it was suspicion. Jack's pulse quickened. He forced a calm smile. "Just leaving, officer." The cop's eyes lingered a little too long. "Good idea," he said before driving off. Jack got back into his car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. The world outside was silent. But inside him, something was breaking. Not from fear, but from the realization that he'd done everything right, and it still wasn't enough. He didn't know it yet, but that moment would push him to act, to reclaim the voice that others tried to silence. Because some stories don't start with violence. They start with a whisper that turns into a storm, and if you're still here, you already feel the storm building. Stay with me till the end. Because what happens next will change how you see silence itself. Days passed, and Jack's suspension turned into silence. No one called. No one asked for his side. It was as if he'd vanished from the company's memory. But the weight of that lie, the woman's accusation, kept pressing on him until one night he couldn't take it anymore. He returned to her street, this time not as a delivery guy, but as a man demanding truth. He parked across from her mansion, the same glowing porch light waiting like a spotlight. Heart pounding, he stepped out and walked toward the door. His reflection stared back in the glass, tired eyes, cracked confidence, quiet rage. He rang the bell once, then again. The door opened. She looked startled, clutching her robe. "What are you doing here?" she snapped, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to save her. "I just came to ask why," Jack said. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with years of swallowed dignity. "Why lie about me?" Her eyes darted away. For a moment, her face softened, almost regretful. Then headlights flashed behind him. A police cruiser stopped at the curb. Someone, maybe her, had already called. The officer stepped out, hand on his belt. "Sir, step away from the door." Jack's breath hitched. The cold wind cut through the silence. "I didn't do anything," he said quietly. But he could see it. The doubt in the officer's eyes, the same story unfolding again. She stood there saying nothing, not confirming, not denying, just watching as if his fear were entertainment. The officer's hand moved closer to his holster. Jack raised his hand slowly, pulse racing, every breath a plea for reason. The world had gone still. And in that frozen moment, Jack realized this wasn't just about one woman's lie. It was about every time someone decided who he was before he even spoke. Then came the siren. Closer, louder, pulling the world toward a breaking point. The flashing lights painted the quiet street in blue and red. Jack stood frozen, hands raised, heart pounding so loudly he could hear it echo in his ears. But before the officer could speak again, another neighbor stepped outside, phone in hand. "I've got this on camera," the man called out. "He didn't do anything." The officer hesitated. The woman's face went pale. In that split second, her silence was louder than any siren. The truth was right there, caught not by authority, but by chance. The officer lowered his hand, muttered something into his radio, and walked back to his car. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another moment dismissed as routine. Jack drove home in silence. The next morning, he couldn't sleep. He replayed every second in his mind. The accusation, the fear, the look in that officer's eyes. He realized something painful yet powerful. He had done nothing wrong, but still had to prove his humanity. He decided to speak up. Jack shared his story online, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. The post spread fast. Thousands shared their own experiences, different faces, same pain. People started talking, and for the first time, Jack felt seen. Not as a suspect, but as a person. He never went back to that delivery job. He didn't need to. He had found something more important, his voice. Because what happened to Jack wasn't just an isolated moment. It was a mirror reflecting the quiet, daily injustices so many face. And the question still lingers, how many more need to whisper their truth before the world finally listens? If Jack's story moved you even a little, don't just scroll away. Share it. Subscribe for more true stories that make us think, and help this message reach someone who needs to hear it tonight.